Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Thank you for coming back to the show. Today, I have a very special guest, Jackaroo Trades, also known as Jack Kellogg. Recently crossed 150K in profits, and I'd love to have you on the show today, my man. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. I had Kyle on yesterday and Brian Lee, and it just makes sense to get you on here as well and kind of get a brief overview of how you got started. Because I know you've been interviewed before, I believe, on Beyond the PDT. So a lot of people, if you haven't heard that episode with Beyond the PDT, to check them out because he'll give you a full background. But if you can give us a quick recap, what got you into trading and just like, I guess for those who don't have time to go listen to other episodes, just a quick recap.
All right, so I was about 18 when one of my friends introduced me to Tim Sykes and day trading. So from there, I just started looking into it, and then it was just total obsession right off the bat. And from that was January 2017. Didn't do much trading the first year. Next year, started with like a $30,000 center point account, and I started short selling like Gritani and Huddy. That was kind of who I tried to emulate. And then I didn't really get too far with that. I was slowly profiting, but all the borrow fees were kind of eating at me. Then I took a huge loss on ticker HEAR when it went crazy.
Yeah.
And that kind of restarted me back to break even, or, kind of put me down a little bit on my account because all my borrow fees. But after that, I took a couple months off, worked again, and then I started with 29 grand in the E-Trade account. And from there, I was able to grow that pretty aggressively throughout the 6 months of the weed sector ripping a little bit. And then when SHMP and all those low price stocks were moving at the beginning of the year. And then for the last 6 months, I've just been kind of dipping my toes into some new stuff, some NASDAQ things. But the one setup that I have mastered from the end of March 2019 to now is kind of shorten these OTC promotions. And I attribute all that to Kyle, who's kind of been the one who showed me that. Yeah, I know you just had him on yesterday, but other than that, kind of just waiting for my OTC longs to catch back on fire a little bit, kind of need to wait for a hot sector or something.
Yeah, I remember because I'm surprised you said that because OTC longs was what I thought you were primarily focusing on.
Yeah, I did solely focus on them from what was it, August 2018 to March 2019. But then I had grown my account to over six figures, and I was like, all right, it's kind of dumb to have six figures in one E-Trade account. Let me kind of separate it. I opened my center point account again, but I I didn't really do good at intraday shorting, so I kind of just closed that down, and then I opened up an IB account, Interactive Brokers, which Michael Good always talks about,
Yep.
and they're great for short selling and holding overnight. And then I also have another brokerage, which is Cobra, and I also short with them. And other than that, I kind of like diversified my money a little bit, and the OTCs kind of slowed down. So my Interactive Brokers account and my other one have been the only ones growing the last 6 months, and it's been at a much slower pace than when I grew my E-Trade account, just because there's not a short play every day like there was long play.
So how does that make you feel? Like, what's that like right now?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with it right now as I'm still, consistently profiting, but I can only make, like 5 grand a month compared to when I could make, five figures a month pretty easily. So that kind of sucks, but I'm still learning a bunch of new things, and I understand that's a process. And I kind of thought that OTCs would heat up again by now, coming into the end of the year, but especially even like the last 2 weeks, there's literally been one good OTC play for the long side, and other than that, man, it's just been dead, which kind of sucks, but
That
just
sucks,
going with the
man.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I saw your post recently where you were talking about, and I may butcher, or actually, you had a brief interview or a clip that Steady Trade posted where they did a clip from one of the interviews, and you mentioned that I may be wrong, so correct me, but I think back in March is when you kind of like started dabbing in Nasdaq, and then kind of just started treading water, and then I guess realized that you need to stick to back what you're good at.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened is I was trading. That's when I had my center point account, and that's my account that really didn't grow at all. It's never grew at all. Center points never grew for me, so I'm never trading with them ever again. But that's when I started trying the long Nasdaq and short intraday Nasdaq, and that just basically it consistently loses me money all the time.
And are you talking about like you were trading it all day, or pretty much the morning, afternoon, or just any time you
Um,
traded it?
the morning, but pre-market too, pre-market in the morning. But if I touch a Nasdaq stock, I always lose the majority of the time.
Well, it's cool to hear that we all have our own niches and so forth. Because you love
Yeah.
OTCs, and I mean, I don't mess with OTCs, but I know you, Kyle, and I mean, I dabbed in them for a little bit. And don't get me
hmm
wrong, like I get it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the patience or it's just different. It's just a different world.
Yeah. Maybe it's the level two or just something about it, but I just feel way more comfortable in the trade and I really can just let them work for me. Whereas Nasdaq, like I can't get the right read on it. Like it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, it does all these crazy things where I kind of know what to expect for an OTC stock, so I can sit through the entire thing and just let my plan play out because I have so much experience watching them. And it was kind of a thing from the beginning too. I was immediately better at OTC. If I remember going back to the start of 2018, I shorted, remember POTN, POTN, when
Yeah,
that stock
yeah.
went on its crazy run? That was my first like four-figure gain, and I shorted that one at like 80, and I got my lowest cover, I think at it was like 50 or something, and that was a phenomenal gain. And like I couldn't even tell you if I've had one four-figure gain going long a Nasdaq stock. I've had a couple good shorts on them because some of these really extended ones are nice when they unravel, but I could never find the risk reward in them where I could take a large position, risking having a very tight stop in Nasdaq. So I could never find that 10 to 1 risk reward, which I can in OTC.
Yeah, no, I remember you talking about that in OTC. Well, and you're right about that. In OTCs, but I know why I'm not comfortable with it. Is because when I first started trading, man, I was a degenerate and I was just like not really trying to learn. I was just gambling. And
hmm
so OTC land, if you go in big size and not prepared for when they panic, they fucking panic. And
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah, so I think that's why I'm just like, you know what? If you try to get out when your support level breaks, you know, you're not getting, at least for me, it's like it could be very risky. So I think how you guys trade it,
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I always go with the trend of the level two, if that makes sense. So if there's a lot of buying pressure and there's bids stepping up and like the bids coming up to the ask, like that's somewhere where I'll look to buy. And if you know the and then it's the opposite for short. If it's starting to sell off, like I'll slam in there and kind of go with the momentum per se. And then if it starts to turn on me, like I can cut pretty quickly and get out. But if it starts working for me, then I can kind of add and find new levels to play off of and get a feel for it. But with Nasdaq, if you try to chase weakness when the stock's panicking, you're just going to have a terrible
Yeah.
entry and it's going to rip all the way back. So
Yeah, that's so true.
with OTC, you can kind of, like bully it or like kind of go with it rather than NASDAQ where it will just keep beating you up if you do that.
And with OTC, it's a lot cleaner, like the actual chart
Yeah.
itself. It's very
Yeah,
clean.
the chart's very clean. Like some days, like you won't even see an OTC stock dip below VWAP, which is super nice if the thing breaks out and it just trends over VWAP all day. It's just super easy to stay long, no real harsh pulls or anything, and it just keeps going,
And
which is
I get how you're able to adjust your risk because with them, it's so clean that it sets whole new defined risk levels every time. Like, because they just trend and channel, trend and channel.
yep.
It's so beautiful. It's just, I guess it's just not for me, but that's how it is. But I am curious about something because you mentioned at the beginning that you started with like kind of more of a Tim Grittani style, Mike Huddy. And what's funny about that is that's how I started. Like, that's when I started, like, I really focused on Tim Grittani's DVD
Mm,
and watched his DVD, fell in love with it, and just just basically became that kind of a trader. and I've completely changed. Well, not completely, but I've changed a whole lot. But at the same time, the one trade for me that did not work for me no matter what, man, and that was, and for others, it works like the best. But it's the daily resistance short. Did you have a good
Oh
experience
yeah.
with that?
No, that is,
Yeah,
I personally think that's the word. Like
me
that
too.
pattern, you can have in a huge loss on it.
Yeah, you can.
Let me just risk this resistance level. Oh, it breaks. Nah, the odds are probably it won't break this. I'll just wait for a dip. And it just keeps going, man. You're dead. You're dead.
Those are my biggest losses. And then I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. And I just now started dabbing
Yeah.
back into it. But what I've realized with it is like, and when I'm talking about dabbling in it, it's like when it only has like, I'm risking 10, $20. Like it's trying to just test it out. I'm
Hmm.
basically realizing that, man, that strategy, you just got to give that bitch a range. Like you got to, it's so different. But I was just curious if you were, had the same experience as I. I was just like, man, I love the way this strategy is simple, but man, it is not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's certainly not easy. And I think that a lot of people just tend to gravit gravitate towards Tim Grittani because, he's obviously made the most amount of money and he started with the smallest account. So it's kind of, and then you see Ducks making a ton of money short selling. So immediately you're like, okay, these guys make the most money, so I want to copy what they're doing. I don't really want to do what Tim Sykes is doing because he's not making the most amount of money. But
Yeah.
then I kind of came to a realization that Tim's style of trading much like it suits me rather than Tim Grittani's style. Like I can't think with a clear head when I'm down a massive amount unrealized, like Tim Grittani and Huddy, these guys, they'll be up thousands and down thousands, but they'll stick to their plan and they're able to pull off these huge wins, but they do have bigger losses too. Whereas Tim Sykes, he just kind of buys and he expects for a move to happen or he'll cut, which is kind of like my mentality when you're trading. And that keeps me mentally sharp because I can buy stock and then immediately sell it if I don't like it and then potentially rebuy it and then nail the trade. Whereas if I take a short and I'm risking a decent amount of money, like $500, and I lose 500, I'm gonna be gun shy when I go to re-put the short back on and then it starts to go against me again. I probably won't be risking the key level, so I can
Mhm.
just keep paper cutting and then that can add up to a big loss.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But I'm curious on what you mean by, because I like everyone else, well, not everyone else, but a lot of people. I was at first Tim Sykes student, and for me, what I've realized is with Tim Sykes' strategy, maybe I just didn't understand it, but maybe I did because when I hear you, when I hear you just now saying like you get in, and if you don't like it, you get out. Man, I was doing that. I was just like taking thousand, maybe because I was so new at it. I haven't traded that way in a long time, but
Hmm.
at that time, I was just like always getting in and out and just taking little paper cuts here and there, and then it always go without me because I mean, that could be my nerves too at that time. But so
Hmm.
what do you mean by that? Because like the way I trade and the way I assume most trade, and then I could be completely wrong on this, is like you pick a position, right? You enter your stock, have your risk level, and you stay in until your risk is hit. Like that's usually how I go about it. But it sounds like you're more of like you're more saying I enter a stock with the idea that X should happen by Y, and then if it doesn't, then I don't care if my initial risk isn't hit. I'm getting out.
That's exactly. I look for something that I refer to as a trigger. So if the stock is channeling between $1 and 96 cents or something, just
Hmm.
for instance, and it breaks $1, I expect for that stock to make its a move upward at least, 5, 10 cents. If the stock breaks $1 and goes to $1.01 and then comes back to like 97, 98, like, and I don't see big bids supporting it, and it's not the right time to the right time of day, and there's no news, I'll probably cut it. But sometimes when it's the right daily chart, it's the right volume, it's the right news, it's the right time of day, and I buy it, and then it kind of dips back, I'll hold, but it all kind of depends on how much conviction I have on the setup,
I
if
guess
that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, I know it does, and it depends on if it's a setup like it's in other words, if it's a momentum or if it's a big picture play,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So the
Yep.
like a momentum play, and that's something because I'm a short bias trader all the way. That's all I do,
Hmm.
and I found what works for me. But for long, man, on small stocks or small caps and penny stocks, if I buy anything, it's just not good for me. So I'm curious though, but what I've noticed, and this is just my own assumption here again, is it more so like for longing on these small caps? Because I've been exploring on big caps, and big caps I do actually really well so far. But on small caps I don't, and it seems like small caps you kind of just you really gotta watch it, and you really have to like enter, like you said, and when if you're entering at that one break, and it goes to 110, you're not scalping it, right? You're just trying to see if it goes further, and then like, can you explain that even more? What you mean by
Um,
that?
so it never, like for me, it's never going to be like a dollar break or something. It's usually going to be a cent break. So it'll be like a 30-cent breakout or something. And I probably should use this because a lot of people are going to be thinking NASDAQ stocks $1 breakout, but this is specifically for usually stocks between a penny and a dollar. So if it breaks that key level that I'm watching
Yeah.
and it breaks 30 cents and it spikes to 32, I probably won't sell there if it's a decent setup. And then I'll wait for it to kind of come down, maybe form another bottom, or maybe add on a dip, just depending. It all really just depends on the action. I'm always open to adding or selling just based on how can I maximize my gains and minimize my risk? That's what's like always going through my head. And there's like no one way that I do it every single
Yeah.
time. So
That's
that's kind of a
interesting.
really hard question for me to answer because there's just so many variables that always come into every trade.
Yeah, no problem. And, I think it just comes down to like the way you like to trade is, I mean, if I hearing you correctly, there's multiple times where you probably cut it before your actual risk that you initially thought
Yeah.
you were going to use gets hit. Is
Yeah.
Does that happen kind of like 50-50 sometimes, you would say?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe more times than not, I'll cut before my initial risk is broken.
But how
And
often does that happen and then it goes your way? Because that's why I stick to my risk because it's so frustrating when that happens. So like, how do you deal with that when it does, and or what have you found?
um, so how do I answer this? I'm usually always going to be in it if it starts going, no matter what, because I'll always just buy back in if it's getting back over my entry. But that doesn't mean you have to kind of find a new trigger then. Like then what will trigger it? If your first trigger doesn't work, say like you're buying at 7 cents, but the high day is 7.5 cents,
Hmm.
and it stuffs at like 7.3 or 7.4, and then kind of comes back down to 6.7 or something, and then it's breaking high day, then that will be the new trigger, the actual high day. Whereas you thought that you could get in at 7 and it would break high day, but it didn't. So then you just stop out because then you don't know if it's gonna break high day. But then if it does break high day, then I'll get back in.
Interesting. So that you feel like this mainly applies for OTCs for you?
Yeah, yeah, you couldn't do this with Nasdaq, or you would just lose all your money, one paper
Yeah.
cut at a time.
Yeah, I think that's because I tried that kind of way with Nasdaq,
Yeah,
and it's not fun. But it seems like Tim Sykes kind of trades, kind of
I mean,
that way.
Sykes
He's very
is
discretionary, but at the same time methodical.
he's always trading OTC. Honest, like
Oh,
he'll trade
now
Nasdaq,
it's been a long
but
time.
he's usually trading OTC.
Mm, that's interesting. When I first started, and in his class, I feel like it was mainly Nasdaq, and there was the OTC lane was just dry. I think that was
Yeah,
like in 2016. I think that's when that was, or 17. When did you get up with Sykes?
January 2017.
Nice. Well, so I'm curious, like, what have you found? By the way, I don't know if I said this, but if I didn't, I'm gonna say it now. Badass, man. Good job too on your success, and I love how you're very level-headed, especially in the videos I've seen you've been interviewed on, and how you're open and you also voice when you like make mistakes. Like, good stuff, man. So I appreciate you being that kind of a trader. Just want to say thanks on that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the kind words.
For sure, man. For sure. I love that. I love those type of people. And so what I'm so curious about through this journey, what do you feel like is the biggest misconception that you've noticed for yourself that you used to have about trading?
Um, that I could take a massive short on a NASDAQ stock like Ducks and make bank. And I just found out that, like, at first I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna get center point, I'm gonna short these stocks, and I'm gonna make a bunch of money. And then I just came to a realization that I'm just like not comfortable with that much size and into a NASDAQ stock because of how fast they can go against you. And now I just trade these little OTC stocks with light volume, light dollar volume, super conservatively. But when they're hot, I can make a bunch of money and I can have very good risk reward. So I always thought I was going to be a short seller on NASDAQ, but I guess that I wasn't.
And so now you're a short seller in OTC land and
Yeah.
long. So
Yeah.
you're good at both.
OTCs, yep.
And so right now, how long? I mean, you say it's kind of dry out there in OTC land. This for the past month, you would say, or in terms of what do you mean by dry?
It's been dry since like April. Like there hasn't been too many big runners, but there's a runner. I found that there's like one good play per week going long, and then there's about 3 to 5 short, like one good play long and one good play short per week. And I usually make a lot more money on the short because I have a lot more conviction and I take bigger risk. But on the longs, I'll risk like 200 bucks and make like 500 to 1,000.
Nice.
So that's why my months aren't that big, just because I'm not making that much. I'm making like 1, 2, 3 grand per week. I think my last, let me see, like I haven't made much money. My biggest week in the last 3 months is 2,600 bucks. So, but it's consistently making 1 to 2 grand per week, which is pretty good.
Which is pretty. No, man, that's pretty great, man. And the other side of it is you're still new. Like all things considered, you're still new. You're still growing. You're still growing your account, and eventually those small hits are going to get even bigger to where you're going to be like, I can't believe like it's this now, right? And the other thing is, I wanted to ask you, what do you feel like is your biggest challenge right now where you're at?
I like trading so much that sometimes I'll just overtrade and I'll trade random setups. I'll just gamble, you know what I mean? Like I know that I shouldn't be in it. But the good thing is that I always cut my losses so quickly, so they're just really paper cuts and they kind of even themselves out because I'll take dumb trades here and there and I'll make money on them, and then I'll take dumb trades here and there and I'll cut it for a small loss. So it kind of evens itself out. But that's definitely my biggest struggle because that could influence when I have a good setup come along. Whereas if I'm down like 100 bucks on the day and then my ideal OTC setup comes along, I'm not fully prepared to take the size that I should and have the patience that I should and stick to my plan because I'm already down some money. So I'm kind of thinking, how do I get green? Like, 400 bucks sounds good. And I take that and then I'm not sticking to my plan and then it keeps going. And I'm like, well, if I had a level head, I probably wouldn't have been trading emotionally towards my P&L.
I love that you shared that because that's literally, I talked about that in a previous episode where myself, like when I found consistency and then I fell off is because I was dabbling in other stuff, but like with regular size. Like it sounds like you're cutting them real small, but I was risking the same amount as I would my best plays, and it just would screw myself in the head. And it would just literally, when my setup did come, I either completely miss it because I was maybe scared, maybe because I lost big already on a play that's not even my setup, or even the fact that maybe I've lost a couple of paper cuts and then now I just feel like nothing's working. So I'll take like half size, on the play that's my play. And then I get pissed off.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happens, man.
So what are you doing right now to improve on that?
Well, right now I try to not really sit here the entire day. Try to get up and go do things, take a drive. I have a little like skiing hill in my backyard. I got some rails and jumps out there. I try to go out there midday, get some exercise, and just come to a realization that sometimes there's going to be days where sometimes the best trade is no trade, and sometimes that's going to be more days than not, and I have to be okay with that until, it's go time again. And that's when I do best is when there's a hot market, when I can sit here all day and take tiny losses and add onto my winners and try to get these massive gains. That's when I'm trading best, when I'm streaking, when I'm making money every day. That's when I'm at my best, and that's in a special market. And right now, like that's not the market right now. If I go through my scans and my watch list, the dollar volume is just crap. The patterns don't make sense, and there's nothing really moving that I can take advantage of personally.
So what do you feel like? And this is kind of just off the wall here, but I'm sure you get tons of questions, right? I mean, I'm sure you're getting tons of people asking you questions, tons of people saying just tons of questions. What do you feel like is the most common question that you get asked, and what's your answers? So that way, maybe hopefully you can stop to ask that question.
Um, the biggest question I get is, what scanner do I use? Honestly.
Really?
Yeah. And the truth is, like, I don't even have a scanner because I don't want to look on my scanner and kind of find a subpar setup and then go think that it's a good idea to trade it. So I kind of just, and the thing is with my strategy too, is I'm never there capturing the morning spike unless it's already set up. So like if a stock's ripping up for the first time, and then I'll look to potentially catch the next, afternoon momentum or the potential breakout down the line or whatever it is. Or I'll look for a first green day after it's had its run. And I don't want to go on my scanner and just find these random stocks that I think are good ideas. So I usually never will miss a play. The only play that I've ever missed was TTCM when that one broke out over a penny and then it gapped up 50% the next day. And I was super pissed off about that.
Ooh.
And then I thought about getting a scanner after that, but then I realized that it still would hurt me because I'll just be looking at all these plays. But I build a watch list on E-Trade, and the stocks that are active, I keep on watch, and then I'll wait for them to, have a green day, or I'll scan daily charts at night and I'll kind of see, a tightening range where you can kind of see these charts where
Hmm.
this is what, Dom kind of taught me, and what a lot of people should look at is, stocks are really rangy where they go up, they go down, but when the stock starts to go sideways and, buyers and sellers run out, and then it starts to pick a direction, that's when I'll get interested, and that's where my trigger is, when it starts to spike off the sideways action. If that makes
And
sense.
yeah, no, that makes total sense. But it sounds like really you're stalking these guys,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
I,
you'll
I
see
wait for these
something.
breakouts
Yeah,
for days, man.
you have to, and I think that's something that I just don't. It's just I definitely have seen those, and I've definitely when I was dabbing OTCs, like they're there. It's just you really gotta be patient and wait for them. And
Yeah,
so
and
hats off to you.
I'll notice like I'll usually have the best entry on these breakout setups because, or at least a starter where no one else has a starter, because I'm stalking these and I'm watching these while someone else is wasting their time watching a NASDAQ stock where they have no clue what's going on it. Whereas I'm just sitting there and watching a liquid OTC develop and create a chart pattern that I'm familiar with. So.
How'd you get comfortable? And I guess last question, just curious, because some people are probably going to be like, oh, let me go look in OTCs now. One thing I have found that makes me uncomfortable in that land is the amount of shares you have to buy. And the only reason I say that is because then like a penny move could be your $100 loss. You know what I'm saying? And then if it like starts to
Yeah.
panic, you could really think you're risking $100 on a penny risk and be like, ooh, I can load up 100,000 shares. I'm only risking a penny. But in reality, you know better than most, especially for beginners who enter an OTC, you need to be prepared. You may be risking 2 pennies, 3 pennies,
Yeah. The main way you can solve that problem is buying at the right time of day, and buying stocks that have, I'll usually watch the ticker before I buy it. Like I'll have the level two up just so I can kind of get a feel for how it's trading and like how the spread kind of looks at times.
Mhm.
Like I'm never pulling up a chart in level two and just immediately buying it because I have no clue how much size I can buy because I don't know what the bid and the ask is going to do in the next 5 minutes. So for me, my kind of key is have more level twos up than charts. So I have like over 10 level twos up with the stocks that I'm usually watching. And sometimes I'll just have a level two up and I'm not even watching the chart. I'm basically just watching the level two. I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm waiting to see a bid prop. I'm waiting to see how it's trading, and that's how I can size in based
Wow, that's a
on
great
how it's
tip.
trading.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense for those who don't know, who haven't experienced OTCs. Man, level two tells you a ton in OTCs land. It really
Yeah.
does, really does, and big caps too, but not in small caps. Man,
No,
for me, it
smart.
doesn't. Small caps,
That's
it's like, what the
literally
hell's
why I think.
happening?
That's
Oh
why I
man,
think I suck at them, man, just because the level two doesn't make any sense and I can't get a read on it. And then just buying dips and shorting strength just doesn't sit well with my stomach.
yeah.
So,
Well, awesome,
so
man. Well, look, Jack, I appreciate you joining me today on the show. I really appreciate it a lot. Let's just stay in touch and good luck and best of luck on your journey continuing.
all right, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I hope some people can learn some things. Just kind of babbled, but